All right, what is going on, guys? Thank you so much for tuning in and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Amanda, also known as Cake and Weights online. Hi, welcome. Thank you for joining. Today, we're getting into a pretty popular topic, alcohol. So alcohol's effects on your weight loss, your fitness, and all things like the science behind like what's going on internally with drinking alcohol. So I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a huge drinker. So I wanna say that fitness is kind of something that like reeled that in for me a little bit. Also just kind of like, you know, the periods of our life. So definitely had my moments. It was pretty short-lived where I was like a little bit more out there partying and drinking. Now it's like a once a year sort of thing, maybe twice. And it's like, you know, when we go out to vacation and then we're getting like the all-inclusive package. So alcohol is included, and you know what they do there? Very minimal alcohol, but your girl still feels it because she never drinks. So let's get right into the topic. I know you guys are all wondering, can I drink and lose weight, do this whole fitness thing? What's going on with this? The answer is yes. I would say if you are like obviously more of a goal-oriented person, you have big goals, maybe you're like looking to compete or something like that, there are times that you're going to need to definitely step away from the alcohol. But for just lifestyle, I would say that it's definitely a thing that you can do. I have my clients drink every now and then. I mean, I don't tell them like, go drink now. If they want to go out and drink, like I'm going to let them do that. It's a lifestyle, you know? And if that's something that you want to include into your lifestyle, totally cool. Let's do it. We can definitely make that work. It's not something that you have to cheat on your diet. Now, I'm going to go into some things that happen because of drinking, and then also like metabolism and like digestive issues that can happen with the drinking. So we'll kind of go into tracking alcohol because I get this question a lot. So if you plug in like wine or some sort of alcoholic beverage on MyFitnessPal, it might come up as like 120 calories with 3 carbs. Obviously, that's not correct. That just doesn't add up, right? Like 3 carbs is not going to equal out 120 calories. We all know that. So alcohol, so I guess we can go over all the macros and then on top of that alcohol. So macros are your calorie containing nutrients, your protein, which has 4 calories per gram, your carbs, which have 4 calories per gram, and your fats, which have 9 calories per gram. Alcohol is another calorie containing thing. I don't think I'm gonna call it a nutrient, but alcohol is another calorie containing item that has 7 calories per gram. So it's kind of right in the middle of like your carbs and fats with 4 calories per gram, and then carbs and protein with 4 calories per gram, and then the fats with 9 calories per gram. So alcohol has 7. So we have to account for these somewhere in your macros. If you're calorie counting, I guess that this is the one time that it's like definitely easier because it's gonna show up as 120 calories, so that's all you gotta do there. But you know, I always promote macro tracking. We're not just gonna lose any sort of weight here with macro tracking as long as you're doing it properly. You're going to lose fat, increase your muscle mass. It's where you're gonna get that body composition change for like that healthier body instead of just like the I'll lose weight, whatever cost that might be at. So with that being said, obviously we can't just account for those 3 carbs that were probably like the added like fillers in the alcohol in there. You have to account for those calories that came from the alcohol somewhere in your macros. So what I usually say, I always say, put it in with your carbs or your fats. So do not track alcohol with your proteins. We still want to make sure we're eating enough protein, especially we'll get kind of into that later. But I usually say like track it as your carbs, depending how many fats you have, like maybe kind of use some of your fats as well, but really whatever goes into your preferences. And I always also say, make sure that you're consuming food. Do not use like alcohol as all of your carbs and fats and you're barely consuming food, because we all know that that's just not going to end well. At least for most people, like that alcohol is probably not going to stay down. So nobody wants to be ending their night with the toilet as their date, right? So yeah, so we have to account for these somewhere. So what we're gonna do is get into the math of things. So I'm gonna just try to explain this with talking. Maybe I'll do it on the screen actually too. But basically, so we have the 120 calories. We're just gonna go with that number. The wine is 120 calories. And then there's already 3 carbs accounted for, so you can take those carbs out. I'm actually gonna pull out my calculator because then I can do the math accurately. So I have 120 calories here, and I will do 3 times 4 for those 3 carbs. That's 12 calories. So 120 minus 12, that's 108 calories. So the rest of those calories, 108 calories, need to be coming from somewhere. Let's divide it. Let's say we're going to use it all as carbs. So I guess I could have just, used the 120 over. So we're going to do the 108 over 4 for 4 calories per gram with those carbs. And that's going to come up for 27 grams of carbs, plus those 3 that we just took out. So that's going to be 30 grams of carbs. So you have to track 30 grams of carbs, not just the 3 that comes up when you scan the product or you look that product up, right? And then if we were to use it with fat, so it was 108, and then we'll do it over 9 for 9 calories per gram with fat, and that's gonna come up as 12 grams. All right, so that's how you're gonna track your alcohol calories. So it's either gonna be the calorie number over 4 or over 9, and you're gonna track those respectively as carbs or as fat. So that's how you track it. You need to make sure that you're accounting for those numbers, because obviously if you're just like, oh cool, it's only 3 carb, you're gonna be over consuming your carbs like crazy, right? And alcohol obviously does count. So we'll get into some things to watch while drinking. So a lot of us probably just know this from experience, that you typically lose your ability to make proper decisions, and that comes along with food as well. So a lot of people tend to eat more food while they're drinking, whether that's because, they're just looking out for their body and they're like, I need to get more food in me so I don't get sick, or they're just kind of like letting go, like the alcohol is just really just making them let go. And especially if you're on more of a restrictive diet, that's probably one of those behaviors that's going to come up more, just because you have been restricting for so long, or like you do have that restrictive tendencies other times when you're not under the influence. So that's something that's going to happen. And then also just kind of environmental, like if you're at a party or at a bar, like there's going to be some food there, and it's going to be that food that's going to sound really good for you while you're drinking. So things to look out for there. Obviously the calories in the alcohol itself, but then also over consuming other calories just from foods while you're drinking, just because your brain's not making the best decisions for you at that moment. Another thing to watch out for, which again, some people might have spent some time in front of the toilet after a night of drinking because of dehydration. So alcohol will dehydrate you a little more. So what we would recommend doing is, like, for every drink, have a glass of water or 2 to just keep those fluids going. Make sure that you're not dehydrated, because that can cause a whole array of problems there. Definitely wanting to, and that's just gonna help you, prevent having that date with the toilet later. And then also, of course, if you're hungover the next day, maybe you're just not feeling great, maybe you sleep in, maybe you literally just cannot get out of bed, you're going to probably skip your workout, or if you do make it to the gym, just have not as good of a workout. Your strength isn't gonna be there, your energy's not gonna be there, it's just not gonna be a good time, right? Maybe the room's still spinning, who knows? So that could always hinder the next day as you're trying to work out as well. So of course, like maybe planning that day as your off day, making sure you're getting a killer workout in the day of drinking. That's just one of those things you just kind of have to plan around, know yourself enough to know am I going to be able to work out the next day? And same with that, with the dehydration could also be causing some of those issues. So kind of looking out for yourself ahead of time with making sure that you are drinking that water intertwined with your alcohol drinking as well. So some things that happen inside the body. So going into more of like the science of things, I think that this stuff's really cool, and it's really important, or like really great for you guys to know as well. So basically, while you're drinking alcohol, alcohol is going to be the number one thing that your body's going to be working to digest, right? It's going to be working to break that down before it's working to break down your protein, your carbs, and your fats. So it does disrupt your protein synthesis there, because your protein's not really one of the priority nutrients to be getting absorbed into your body. So your muscles aren't really getting that protein that you're trying to intake and digest, just because it's focusing more on digesting the alcohol, breaking the alcohol down, getting that out of your system first. So with that being said, your carbs, your fats, those all could be just stored as extra fat at the end of the day if the alcohol is just taking all of the energy to break down the nutrients there, and then by the time that it gets to the carbs and fats, like they're already stored as fat. So that's one thing. I would say, like, especially with like occasional drinking, it's probably not as big of a deal, but maybe like drinking in excess or just drinking every single night, that might be something that we want to cut back to like 4 times a week to start off, 3 times a week, you know, kind of cut that down. See if you're seeing a difference in your progress and your results and your workouts, and then sleep as well. Going into sleep, I feel like the misconception is that you sleep really well after a night of drinking. Alcohol puts me to sleep. Like, you know, you hear stuff like that all the time. I can only get a good night's sleep when I am drinking. But in reality, you're getting a really poor quality of sleep after drinking. So obviously, we all know that sleep is huge for our weight loss journey, for our progress, getting like those strength gains, like losing that fat, or at least like maintaining the fat loss, increasing the muscle mass. It's huge. It's huge for health in general. So we want to make sure that we are getting good night's sleep. So that's another thing with like drinking every single day or every single night. Might be something we want to cut back, so that maybe we'll see the difference in our sleep then. And maybe it'll be one of those things that you're like, wow, actually I feel a whole lot better when I don't. I am just going to cut this back to 1 night a week. So something to just play around with, really focusing in on like how you're feeling the next day. Maybe you're always waking up and you're like, I just feel like I didn't get a good night's sleep. Well, maybe that's why. So one thing to just kind of play around with would be to see how it goes when you're not consuming that wine every single night, or that beverage every single night, or maybe it's only on weekends and you're seeing that huge difference there. Play a role in like deregulating your hormones. So it does increase your stress, your cortisol hormone, which I talk about all the time. If your cortisol is elevated, it's going to hinder your weight loss progress. It's going to hinder your progress with losing fat, increasing your muscle, and of course health markers all around. We do not want to see those hormones irregular. We want to try to stabilize them as much as possible. And then it also does decrease your estrogen and testosterone for men. So that's more of like long-term, like I drink all the time sort of thing. But just something to keep in mind, that it can mess with your sex hormones, which I'm saying all the time, like your hormones play a huge role in your progress, your weight loss, and all of that stuff. And then also with like relationships as well. Like you do not want your sex hormones to be deregulated for other activities, if you know what I'm saying. So basically that's what it is with alcohol. The main takeaways would be, you know, the things that we already know happen, like you can externally see, like you might be consuming more and more unhealthy foods. Alcohol has those calories in it. You're not going to be having a good night's sleep, poor quality of sleep, and you're probably not going to be getting a workout in the next day, or at least an optimal workout in. But then the huge thing there is the muscle or the protein synthesis, where alcohol is going to be the first thing that's going to be digested, so it will hinder the protein to actually get to your muscles and be absorbed by your muscles to maintain and or build. So yeah, so if you are hitting the gym really hard, it's one of those things where if you are a drinker every single night or a few times a week, you have to kind of weigh out the pros and the cons to it. And if you do want to really succeed on your journey, it's one of those things that you might just want to let go of at least a few times a week, just so that you can see better benefits with actually absorbing the protein that you're eating and really making sure that you're digesting all of your nutrients properly. Nothing against drinking at all. I would just say, definitely, if you have huge goals, it might be one of those things to reevaluate. If you are more of like, I'm just gonna do it for my lifestyle, I just wanna be like kind of healthy, then by all means, keep doing what you're doing. Just some things to think about. All right, so thank you guys so much for joining. I think I'm just gonna kick back and have a cold one. You know, it's only 12:30. Just kidding. All right, thank you guys so much for watching, and join us next time. I really appreciate you guys. If you want to, I would appreciate it if you liked, commented, and subscribed, just so I know, hey, you like my videos and you're here for me. So thank you guys for the support, and I will see you guys next time.